Hey everyone, and welcome to Anthony's Career Advice. My name is Anthony, and today I'm going to be providing you with career advice. Topic of today's video and subsequent follow-up videos will be about interviewing. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about how to use the S.T.A.R formula or PAR formula when answering interview questions. What I really want you to think about it as is a formula to help you, storyteller's formula, more importantly. And this will provide you with the ability to do exactly what's necessary, is share how your past is relevant to the present of the employer who you're speaking with in a coherent manner. So a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. So let's get started, okay? So S is for situation. Situation is kind of painting the picture or the backdrop. Where did this take place? Can you tell us when it took place? Or maybe the title that you held, and maybe one or two quick points about your day-to-day responsibilities, right? That's a good way of looking at the situation, because what it's doing is it's giving the people who are sitting across from you, the panel, an idea of where this all took place. Because in our heads, it all makes sense. We lived it. But for someone hearing it for the first time, they won't. So we have to remove the assumption. So when you're establishing a story and you're talking about a place for the first time, think of it like this. Now, here's an example of a situation without really real content, but just to get an idea of the flow. So, the answer I'd like to provide to you today took place while I was working at Company X. The title I had was Y. Some of the main responsibilities that I had was A, B, and C. And I was a part of a team with 7 people. So that's an example of a situation when you're establishing a story or establishing an environment. Okay. Next, we're going to do the T, which is the task. Now, this part is directly correlated to the question being asked. So for example, if the question had to do with communication or maybe conflict, this is where you would want to highlight what was the problem, right? Who was affected by this problem? And what was the impact around this problem? Impact to the business ultimately, right? So you can, if you're thinking about putting content, you could say, well, the problem was between myself and another person. The problem consisted of us disagreeing about how to complete a task. And the impact of this meant that we weren't able to continue or get started or get going, right? So now, if I'm the panel, I know where this took place, you've highlighted what the problem was, and you've told me why it's important to solve it. So now I can follow you, right? So I'm engaged, I'm not looking away, I'm not yawning, I'm not thinking about something else. I am paying attention to you, just by doing those 2 subtle things, which then leads to the A, the action, or it's actually plural, actions that you took. Now, this is the biggest part of your answer. This is about 50% of what you're going to talk about, because this is going to highlight your skills, your strengths, your competencies, anything and everything that's going to build your brand. This is where it's going to be, okay? So if an answer that you provide is 5 minutes long, let's say, this is 2.5 minutes or close to. Now, what do you do in this point? How do you fill this space? I find what can be helpful is you jog your memory while you're prepping, of course, because none of this is in real time. You have to prep, and we'll talk about that later in another video. But what you want to do is you want to be able to break it down in a step-by-step process. What is it that you did? What is the first thing, the second, the third, the fourth? And there is no maximum amount of things that you could have done to get to the next step of the answer, at least when you're planning it or you're prepping it. You'll find out as you go along that things start to condense. But you want to be able to treat it like you're training somebody new for the first time and they need to know this information. So you want to highlight each step. Now, some things may seem redundant, and that's okay, but you also have to understand that the person or the people sitting across from you are hearing this for the first time. So even if they know what the process is or have an idea of what the general principle of the processes are, they don't know that you do. So you reiterating points that may seem arbitrary or common is fine, because that gives them the peace of mind in knowing that you understand what's necessary in order to get to the result. Okay? So it's, to repeat that, if we think about the A, it's the actions taken. First thing that I did, the second thing that I did, the third thing that meant working with another team or another person, which meant contributions from others, and this, that, the other, and you start to filter it all in and you build it all into the main point that goes right back to what you did, or a nice little summary of everything that you did, which led to the result, the R. Now this is the ending, just like the ending of a story or a movie. You want to wrap things up nicely. You want to be able to say that it was a positive outcome, or if it wasn't a positive outcome, that you did everything in your power to make it positive, or if it's still ongoing, that it's still a work in progress, but it's tracking towards completion and success. Now, if you do that, you're gonna have a very strong answer. And I should add to this that the result doesn't have to be that long. It's, when we think of the 4 letters, so the S, the T, the A, and the R, the A being 50%, then the other 3 letters taking a third of 50%, whatever that is in the math, is it. So it's a sentence or 2, summarizing everything that you did and how it was successful. Now, an added layer when answering a behavioral interview question or using S.T.A.R is consider, well, what did I learn from this experience? Right? Because that could be a nice little added touch to your answers, even if they're not asking for it. Because it's a summary on top of a summary, which can highlight, if we use the example of conflict, let's assume the conflict was successful, or the outcome of the conflict was resolved and it was successful. Say, what did you learn about this experience? Say, well, I learned that sometimes conflict has less to do about arguing, has more to do with difference of opinions of 2 different people who are thinking about a solution just from a variety of angles. So what I learned was to value the opinion of others before making judgments. Or maybe not learned, but it validated what I learned previously about this. So it's a nice little way of adding a few extra ticks or points to your answer. Gives them a little bit more well-rounded understanding of who you are, and I find that it can be a little bit easier when trying to move on or creating a dialogue, or continuing the conversation and continuing the dialogue when answering different interview questions. Now, I said earlier in the video, there's S.T.A.R and P.A.R, or a number of acronyms. What the P in P.A.R, P.A.R is, it basically amalgamates the S and the T. Now, you can just use that if you're comfortable treating it like what was the problem that I was facing, but knowing full well that you have to highlight a bit about the background and the impact, which would be under the T. Or you can use it with S.T.A.R. So for example, if you've already established a location of where a story took place and you want to use that same location for another story, all you would then say, quickly would be, while also working at company X, which is already established. So you don't have to repeat the same content over and over again. Like, this is where I work, this is the duration, these are some of the tasks, this is the size of the team. Once it's established, you can move to P.A.R, or always just use P.A.R while amalgamating the S and the T. So to summarize, when answering a behavioral interview question using a formula like S.T.A.R or P.A.R, just remember, it's storytelling. It's your story. That's it. This formula is not designed or wasn't created by HR teams to make life challenging or difficult. It really is just a matter of you being able to say, I'm using this to organize my thoughts because the people I'm talking to are hearing this for the first time. And I promise you, if you do this, you will walk out of every interview confidently, knowing full well that you made it very hard for them to say no. That's it for today's video. I'm going to be making a few more around interviewing, and then a few other ones about the process of interviewing, and then a few other ones that focus on general interview questions and answering certain types of behavioral interview questions. So do stay tuned for those. And like always, if you found that this video provided you with value, please like, share, subscribe, and I will be talking to you guys in the near future. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Bye for now.